I'm going to be talking about the treatment that I had and just really talking about whether I think it helped my symptoms and helped halt the progression of my MS. It's one of those interesting topic of conversations because some people want to go on to treatment and some people just don't, and that's completely down to the individual. Nobody can make up your mind except for you, and it's a very individual choice. For me, I was really lucky and felt quite privileged actually to have the opportunity and be asked to go on to a trial which was in the very early stages of my multiple sclerosis, and actually at a point where I was really very quite unwell. And so the story is that I relocated to Wales and I got picked up by the university hospital there when I was going through this extremely bad relapse. And basically I got asked whether I would like to go on this trial. Being on a blinded trial just means that the doctors there don't know what you're on, because we had a 50-50 chance of being on either Rebif or Campath, which is now known as Lemtrada. I'd seen a bit of coverage on the news about Campath and I was really excited about this drug because I'd seen the potential of what it could do for people. But it wasn't my choice, but luckily I did actually get Campath selected for me, so I was really, really happy. At the time, I was a 27-year-old. Previous to this happening, like 3 months before, I was extremely healthy, never had any problems, and then wallop, this came along and I didn't know where I was, what I was doing, and I went from being this carefree girl to suddenly having all these issues with my body. Like, I had no use of my hands, no use of my legs, found it really difficult to walk, couldn't feel my body, had all these sensory issues. It was like, what's going on? This is really like a difficult time. So for me, the choice of going on to a treatment was kind of like a no-brainer. And although I knew about the side effects, and although I knew that almost we were like a guinea pig for this treatment because it wasn't licensed, I was like, hell yes, I'm in a really bad situation. I'm having relapse after relapse within a very short space of time. If it continues like this, the future is really going to look bleak, because with every relapse, subsequently, my disability was getting worse. So I knew I had to do something about it. If people don't know what Lemtrada is, it's a kind of chemotherapy type of treatment, and you have it via an infusion, and the infusions are spaced out by a year, and you have 2 infusions. So what's the outcome for me on this treatment? What do I feel? Do I feel like it's helped me? Do I feel like it was worth it? Do I feel like it's halted my MS progression? Yes, I do, and these are the reasons why. I had my first Campath infusion in May 2009. And then every year after that, you go for an MRI check just to see how things are progressing. And every year, my scans were coming back with no enhanced lesions, no new lesions, no new activity. And in fact, some of the lesions were shrinking. And then some of the lesions were disappearing. So my scan in 2008, when I was diagnosed, which had 20 lesions on it, is now reducing to like 18 lesions. I mean, it can surely only be the Campath. I was relapse free for 10 years and I didn't relapse until 2019. And although I had a bad relapse which affected my arm, and that went on for 2.5 years, I was so lucky because, to be honest, as I said before, the rate that I was relapsing previously, sometimes having 2 and 3 relapses within a space of a month, you know, for me to be relapse free for 10 years was incredible. So my last relapse was in 2019 and I haven't relapsed since. I feel better overall since having the treatment. As crazy as it sounds, because obviously it's an immunosuppressive treatment, emotional stress, or if I do get run down for any reason, that's when a flare seems to come up. But it's usually from an old symptom. The thing that happens a lot for me is my optic neuritis flares up all the time. But if I think back to when I first was diagnosed with MS, the one problem that I had and where my MS started for me was in my eye. So whenever I am feeling a little bit run down, or whenever I have high emotional stress or I'm under stress, then it always comes out in my left eye, and then that's when I seem to get optic neuritis. Another thing to note is that since my last treatment in 2010, I've been completely treatment free. I have never had another treatment for my multiple sclerosis, and I am still not on any treatment. So I think the long lasting effects of the Campath have really been massively beneficial. What do I think if I didn't have this treatment? I think that my life would have looked very different. I think that my disability would look very different. I think that having this treatment has massively changed the quality of what my life looks like now. I mean, you never know, and I can't say what the future would have looked like had I have not had the treatment, because obviously I've had it. But looking back at the rate of relapses and how quickly my disability was progressing because of the amount of relapses I was having, I just feel like it would have been a very different story. Would I take it again? 100%. I would do it again. I would do it again, even with the side effects. And there were plenty of those, and I did go through some issues. But you know what? The pros definitely outweigh the cons. And just to have that progression of MS halted for 10 years, to be able to just carry on and be, you know, live my 30s basically, being a relatively normal 30-year-old. I have had issues. I don't want to kind of sugarcoat all this and say it's all been a dream and everything's been great, because it hasn't. And the treatment's caused some of those problems as well. But I just feel like it would have been different had I not have been on the treatment. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I know treatment's not for everybody, and this video certainly isn't trying to tell people what they should or shouldn't do. This is literally just my opinion and my story, and I'm just sharing it for anybody out there. I do know that getting onto a disease modifying drug earlier on in the stages of your MS has proven to be more successful. But again, as I said, like, it's down to you, it's down to the individual, and only you can make that decision. So what's my verdict? My verdict is that I am extremely happy and so privileged to have been able to have gone on to this trial, and 13 years later come off. But I've met some extremely amazing people. I think all the girls that were on this trial were so brave to go on and pioneer this treatment and allow it to be licensed as Lemtrada, and now I just think it's amazing. And personally, I think it's the best thing that I've ever done. Yes, thumbs up.